We've got big time news this morning on the Trump economy, big numbers for the second quarter GDP, and well, the libs are crying over it. So we're going to have fun with that. But the good times continue to roll here in the golden age. All the details coming up in a moment. Plus a throwdown between Greg Gutfeld and Eric Swalwell. Swalwell challenging Greg Gutfeld to a contest of feats of strength. Does he know he's a congressman? Anyway, we'll give you all the background on that and the details. Oh, plus an epic Cory Booker meltdown that even have his fellow Democrats calling him out for the fool that he is. That's a beautiful thing because we love our Spartacus. We'll show you that and a whole lot more coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. I want to make a quick pitch and appeal here for subscribers. We need you to subscribe. I've been looking at the stats. I'm not a big analytics guy, but I looked at some numbers. Huge percentage of you watch these videos regularly and you don't subscribe, and I don't quite get that. If you like what you see, then literally give us a like and subscribe. In fact, we're getting dangerously close to our next milestone. That'll be 600,000 subscribers on this channel. Just blown away by the growth. And we're going to do something extra special when we hit 600K. So you're going to want to be a part of that. It's just going to be for subscribers. So make sure you do that. Well, actually, it won't just be for subscribers. We can't make it just for subscribers. But make sure you like and subscribe this video and tell a friend about it. Really appreciate it. The administration obviously very busy fixing our economy, and while they're at it, the world's economy. Monumental moves going on with this administration. Difficult for them to take your personal finances into account. That's where you come in. You have to do that. That's why tens of thousands of Americans are taking the bull by the horns, and they're buying gold right now from Birch Gold. You should too. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. Some central banks bolster demand for gold by buying it in record quantities. And by the way, we still have a lot of global instability right now. We've got tensions worldwide. That means it's a good time for peace of mind with gold. Birch Gold makes it extremely easy to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Or you can also just buy some gold to keep it home in your safe for, a rainy day, let's say. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. Birch Gold's going to send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, only useful information. They've got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They've got tens of thousands of happy customers. It's time for you to take control of your savings today. Text the word Larry to 989898. Do that today. All right, everybody give us one more quick like here on this video before we get charging, because that really, really helps us out. That simple little like and leaving some comments in the chats makes a big difference. Done? Everybody got it? Great. Eric Swalwell is a congressman, but you wouldn't know it by his recent behavior. I think he thinks he's a social media influencer or something. He might be jealous of Jasmine Crockett. It's a theory. Anyway, he's picked a fight now with Greg Gutfeld, of all people. He wants to have a throwdown, and the stakes are incredibly high if Gutfeld accepts the challenge. We'll give you all those details coming up in just a second. But first, some background. This all started with a series of cringeworthy Eric Swalwell videos where somebody on his comms team has decided that he should start making these TikTok videos and X videos to be an influencer and show him doing all these things that he's doing now because Congress is in recess. This one caught everyone's attention. He was bench pressing at the gym, although I think that's a squatting rack, actually. I don't think it's where you're supposed to be bench pressing. Also, people were noting that it's not a whole lot of weight to sort of show off about. Also, think of the poor guy who had to stand on a bench over Eric Swalwell to get this angle. Anyway, here's what the video looked like.
I should be working right now. I should be at the Capitol. I should be in a suit. Instead, Republicans sent us home because they would rather stand up for Donald Trump than release the Epstein files and stand up for victims. We could be at Washington, D.C., lowering your healthcare costs, lowering your grocery costs, and restoring your rights. I should be working right now. Instead, I'm pumping iron at the gym.
Are you, though? Are you really pumping iron? In fact, are you sure that is iron? That's pretty rough to watch. But he thinks this is a great idea. By the way, set aside the fact that Congress goes on recess at this time literally every year. I've lived in Washington over a dozen years now. This is when they go on recess. This is when they all go home. Literally every year this happens. So he's making a big deal over nothing. Who here wishes Congress went on recess more often? I wish they were only a part-time Congress. I wish. I live in a state where the state legislature only meets 90 days a year, January 1st through like March 30th. And that's it. The rest of the time, the state capitol where I live is relatively empty of politicians, except for the governor's office. It's glorious. You know, the more often an elected official is in session, the more trouble they can make for you. Look at California. They have a full-time legislature. I rest my case. Eric Swalwell, in the meantime, he's really liking all these videos. Check out this cringy one.
I should be working right now.
No, put a shirt on. Oh my God, I should have given you a trigger warning. I apologize that there was no warning in advance. In this video, Eric Swalwell is topless and shows his man nipples. You are now warned. I'm sorry. Let's see it again.
I should be working right now. I should be in Congress. I should be voting to lower your costs. But instead, I'm in a pool because Republicans sent everyone home because they don't want to release the Epstein files. We could be working to lower your costs, make sure healthcare is affordable, and make sure we're restoring the rights of everyone in our community. I should be working right now.
Ooh, now he's added a little graphic at the end. Hey, who here, just by a show of hands, or maybe you can let us know in the chat down below in the comments, who here thinks that it's Congress's job to lower your costs? By the way, lower my costs on what exactly? Oh, also, I've got another question. Here, let us know in the comments or in the chat. Who here trusts Democrats like Eric Swalwell to lower costs? You know, just look at their track record. When Democrats are in charge of Congress and they start passing legislation, how often does that result in your life being less expensive? This whole thing is built on a tower of lies. I should be in Congress lowering your costs right now. When have you ever lowered costs for us? Just look at healthcare. Look at they called it the Affordable Care Act. Have they made it affordable? I don't think so. As if that weren't enough, he's got another one. He's very active. By the way, I love it. I should be in Congress right now, but instead I'm in a pool. You know, you could be working. You could be going out and seeing your constituents. You could be working in your district office. You could actually be doing something. You could maybe, I don't know, you could volunteer to clean up one of the filthy, dirty streets in your Democrat-run district. I don't know. You could be volunteering to clean up a freaking homeless encampment so the criminal vagrants aren't leaving hypodermic needles all over the sidewalk in California where you live. No, but since Congress is out of, I'm going to go swimming and toss a basketball into a hoop. By the way, who still has a basketball and a hoop at their swimming pool? All right, so now when he's not lifting a little bit of weight at the gym on a piece of equipment that is not meant for bench pressing, when he's not in his pool showing all of his neighbors his nipples, he's playing softball.
I should be working right now. I should be in Washington, D.C. I should be voting to bring down your healthcare costs, the cost of the grocery store, and restore your rights. But the Republicans sent Congress home early. Why? They didn't want to release the Epstein files. They would rather shut down the Congress that they govern than tell you the names who should be held accountable for what happened to these victims. I should be working right now. Instead, I'm going to be pitching for the Dublin Leprechauns.
Hold on. Can we see that pitch again? Is he playing baseball? Is that a baseball? Oh, he's playing baseball. Forgive me. It's not softball. So let's see that pitch right now that he did for the Dublin Leprechauns. By the way, is he in Ireland? Is that a name of a local pub? All right. Let's see that pitch, shall we?
Leprechauns.
Boy, that was a rainbow, wasn't it? That's a little. I think that's a ball. how many times did they have to take that pitch? They could have just, all right, just put in my best pitch in there at the end, okay? I'm gonna pitch and just I'm gonna do 20, 30, 40 pitches to home plate. Find the best one and put that one in at the end of the video. All right, you got it, Congressman. Here's your best pitch.
Leprechauns.
Just a bit outside. All right, so there's Eric Swalwell's cringy videos, all based on lies, by the way. Hey, guess what? Spoiler alert, Congress does not have the power to release the Epstein files. By the way, if Congress does have the power to release the Epstein files, I would ask the good congressman from California, why didn't he want to do that when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House and Joe Biden was the president of the United States? But, I quibble with facts and logic here. Sorry. Congress is in recess because they're always in recess at this time. That said, let's get to Greg Gutfeld on Fox News this week. He saw these videos and he has opinions.
The lover of a Chinese spy fails to prove he's a guy. Our video of the day comes to us from Democrat weenie Eric Swalwell, who tried to appear athletic while attacking Republicans for a scheduled government recess. You want to talk about a waste of time? How many times did they do that in order to get that right? Someone should have tossed him a plugged-in toaster. It would have been less embarrassing. It's weird because AOC is hanging over on the top, filming it, trying to get the right shot. I'm sorry, man. Shooting baskets won't make us forget you're a basket case. And with a bench press like that, no one will mind if you use the women's locker room. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of an ex trying to win you back. So desperate. Look at me. Look what I'm doing. I'm in the gym. I'm in the pool alone with no friends. He did sink that basket, so that makes him a candidate for the WNBA, except he doesn't have balls. So, what? I meant that metaphorically, not biologically. What do you think I am? I feel like we're seeing a collective identity crisis. You're seeing so many of these people who don't really know what they are. Yeah. And they're going okay, if all my belief system is crumbling, what am I? Well, I was told that if I go to the gym, guys will like me. They're all trying to out-Trump Trump. But Trump doesn't act. He just is what he is. And there is no is for them. Yeah,
they don't know how to be natural. They don't know how to be real. So it's all very forced and it's all very cringe as we continue to repeat. So Gutfeld had some fun with that. That's some classic Gutfeld reaction. It's great. And I'll be honest with you. We loved seeing this play out. And we were probably going to do this segment later in the show today. It wasn't going to lead our show, but we have some breaking news. This developed just in the last 30 minutes, I think. Congressman Eric Swalwell, because he's got a lot of time on his hands, he has responded to Greg Gutfeld, and he's responded with, a challenge. Here it is. On his official congressional account, I'll have you know. Here's a deal for Greg Gutfeld. Never heard of him till he spent 8 minutes criticizing what I bench press. Who believes that? Who believes that Eric Swalwell has never heard of Greg Gutfeld? Greg Gutfeld is on the highest rated cable news program on the planet right now. Did you know, somebody did the analysis, I think it was on my buddy Joe Concha, who does media criticism for Fox News. They took a random day last week and they added the ratings, the audience estimates through the Nielsen ratings for every single CNN primetime show starting at 4 p.m. Primetime usually starts at 5 or 6. But they added the audience to every single show, including Anderson Cooper, Jake Tapper, all of them, Abby Phillips, all through midnight. Added up the audience based on the Nielsen estimates for the entire night of CNN. And it was still a smaller combined audience than the 1 hour of Greg Gutfeld's show, The Five, at 5 p.m. on Fox News. Eric Swalwell has been in Washington, D.C. for years. He appears on Fox News on a regular basis. I believe he was in studio for one of his appearances with Tucker Carlson in Washington, D.C. You cannot tell me that Eric Swalwell has never, ever heard of Greg Gutfeld. Who believes this? All right. That said, we'll set that aside for a moment. The deal. If tough guy bench, I believe that means Greg Gutfeld. Greg Gutfeld's the tough guy here. If tough guy benches more than me for 10 reps, I'll leave Congress. If not, he leaves Fox News. I'll give Greg 48 hours to accept. Then I'm calling him Gutlessfeld. Ooh, slow burn. All right, where do you guys stand on this? What do you think Gutfeld should do? I think this is hilarious, by the way. I think it's hilarious. And I'd love to hear your response, if you don't mind. I have an opinion on this. Now, listen, first of all, I've never met Eric Swalwell in person. I don't know anything about him. I've never, but I know Greg Gutfeld. I've been in the same space with him many, many times. I've done his show, not this show, Red Eye, his old show, many times. And I've socialized with Greg Gutfeld. I'm not going to lie. Greg is not a big guy. He is quite diminutive. He's a short man. That doesn't mean he's not strong, but I just mean, is Swalwell, I don't know. How tall is Swalwell? If he's like, close to 6 feet, he's got some leverage on Greg in terms of weight. This sort of thing should be like, strangely, I'm not a super strong dude, but I can bench press just because I'm big. Big guys can bench. Now, based on that video, it doesn't look like Eric Swalwell is, throwing a whole lot of iron around at the gym. But, you're going to have to be very fit, I think, if you've already giving away a 10-inch advantage potentially to your opponent. I'm just saying, I don't know for sure. And also, I don't know about the level of Greg Gutfeld's fitness and whether he goes to the gym. And I guess the point that Swalwell's making is, well, you're making fun of me and calling me names for weightlifting. I bet you can't lift as much weight. Okay, whatever. First of all, it's juvenile. It's playground stuff. But hear me out. Fox News has the opportunity to do the funniest thing here. Because think about how this works. If he benches more than me for 10 reps, I'll leave Congress, which means they're going to have to do multiple sets here, right? Because let's say Swalwell says, all right, I'm going to do 100 pounds. And then Gutfeld does 110 pounds. Well, then Swalwell's going to have to come back and do like 120 pounds. And yeah, say Eric Swalwell is 6 feet tall. See, I'm telling you, he's got a little bit of an advantage here. But either way, this could be hilarious. If Swalwell actually has to step up and meet his challenge and he ends up doing some sort of primetime Fox News humiliation ritual where he's bench pressing with Greg Gutfeld, which kind of diminishes the office of the House of Representatives, doesn't it? One of two things is going to happen here. Number one, Eric Swalwell loses and he has to leave Congress, which, by the way, I think is his secret dream here. I think he's bored as hell. He can't get anything done. Why else would he be doing these videos? I think he wants to leave Congress. So possibly that happens, or possibly Gutfeld loses. And then this is why I'm thinking it's hilarious. Fox News can actually change their name. It would be hilarious. They could change their name. Still be the #1 news cable network. And Gutfeld can say, yeah, I don't work for Fox News anymore. I work for Fox News Network or Fox News International, or you know what I mean? Or hear me out. Maybe Greg wants to leave Fox, and then he could take up the new slot in late night over at CBS and replace Stephen Colbert. Maybe this is really Greg Gutfeld's maneuver to get out of his contract and make more money in primetime network. I'm not sure. I don't know how any of that plays out. Frankly, I think that Gutfeld has already won this battle. The fact that Swalwell has had to reduce himself to a challenge of physical strength against a comedian television host. But either way, however this ends up, we'll let you know what the next development is, and it's going to be funny no matter what, because Eric Swalwell's involved. And Greg Gutfeld, he's pretty funny too. Hey, guys, I want to tell you about my book. I do a lot of media criticism on this show, and if you like that, then you'll really like my book. It's called Shameless Liars, How Trump Defeated the Legacy Media and Made Them Irrelevant. It focuses on the 2024 election. I go through all the detailed descriptions of all of the lies that were told, everything that the media got wrong, all of the blatant falsehoods that they got away with, but then how Trump beat them anyway over the heads of the legacy corporate media and direct to you because of the advent of the brand new gatekeeper-less media that we get to enjoy, just like this program here. To get my book, it's available in hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. I do the narration in the audiobook, by the way, and it's available at Amazon and Audible. Check it out. Thank you for that. Cory Booker has lost his marbles. He went nuts on the floor of the Senate yesterday. I mean, more so than usual. And this time, his anger was focused at his fellow Democrats. One of them, Amy Klobuchar, is now firing back. And we've got Democrat on Democrat violence in Washington, D.C., and we're here for it. I will show you what Klobuchar had to say coming up in a sec, but here is Cory Booker. He was very angry. He started screaming on the floor of the Senate. Just look at him. He's giving you anger. He learned that in his local improv class. He takes them every Tuesday night. It's in Northwest D.C., near DuPont Circle, where he also hangs out quite a bit. Cory Booker on a tirade. And when you hear about what made him so mad, why he was so angry at his fellow Democrats, it's going to blow your mind. This entire party and all of the elected members of the party in Washington are absolutely disintegrating before our very eyes. This is loss after loss after loss piled on top of each other. But let's start with Cory's temper tantrum.
The Democratic Party needs a wake-up call. I see law firms bending a knee to this president, not caring about the larger principles, that those free speech rights, that you could take on any client. Why are you bending the knee? I see universities that should be bastions of free speech bending at the knee to this president. I see businesses taking late-night talk show hosts off the air because they dare to insult a president. I see people who want mergers suddenly think that they have to pay tribute to this president. And what are the very people here elected to defend the Constitution of the United States saying, oh, well, today, let's look the other way and pass some resources that won't go to Connecticut, that won't go to Illinois, that won't go to New York, that will go to the states he likes. That is complicity with an authoritarian leader who is trashing our Constitution. It's time for Democrats to have a backbone. It's time for us to fight. It's time for us to draw lines. And when it comes to the safety of my state being denied these grants, that's why I'm standing here. Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right. And dear God, if you want to come at me that way, you're going to have to take it up with me. Because there's too much on the line right now in America. As people's due process rights and freedom of the speech rights and secret police are running around this country, picking people up off the streets who have a legal right to be here. There's too much going on in this country. When are we going to stand together for principles that I just heard that were agreed with? When are we going to stand together? If we don't stand as Democrats, we deserve to lose. But if we stand united, if we stand strong, if we stand with other people, if we tell with a chorus of conviction in America what this president is doing is wrong, if we stand up and speak that way, dear God, we will win. Like all of those people that are ancestors who joined hands together and said, we shall overcome. No, not on my watch. I'm protecting Jersey today. I'm protecting our Constitution today.
Yeah, okay. Okay, tough guy. I saw somebody on social media say, Cory Booker hasn't been this angry since a prostitute showed up after he called her and she didn't have a penis. That was a pretty good line. In all seriousness, no, I do worry. The rage that Cory Booker is showing here, I mean, it makes you concerned about his husband. and how he. I'm sorry, what? He's not gay? Are you sure? Come on. Oh, I get it. I'm sorry. I get it. He's not gay. That's right. Yeah, Cory Booker, very angry there, very upset, standing up for Jersey. Here's the best part. Do you know what he was angry about? He was angry about a bipartisan bill that, by the way, passed out of committee unanimously. What does that bill do? It funds police departments across the country. Cory Booker is drawing a line in the stand and screaming and getting all this attention about how angry it is at his fellow Democrats because Democrats are agreeing to fund cops. It does not get better than this. And the two senators who co-sponsored this, one of them is a brand new freshman senator from Nevada, where she won by this much, right? Fetterman, of course, is on board with this. A lot of senators are on board with it because, like, yeah, this is, hey, can we do something that makes us look good? Because everything we do looks like we hate America and hate cops and hate people. The other senator that co-sponsored this, Amy Klobuchar, she was not too happy about this. I'm going to show you what she had to say. A little bit more from Cory Booker here, because it went on for a while, you know.
What I am tired of is when the President of the United States of America violates the Constitution, trashes our norms and traditions. And what does the Democratic Party do? Comply? Allow him? Beg for scraps? No, I demand justice. I will fight for Jersey every day, every night. This is a call, folks. The Democratic Party needs a wake-up call. I see law firms bending a knee to this president. I see businesses taking late-night talk show hosts off the air because they dare to insult a president. I see people who want mergers suddenly think that they have to pay tribute to this president. And what are the very people here elected to defend the Constitution of the United States saying, oh, well, today, let's look the other way and pass some resources that won't go to Connecticut, that won't go to Illinois, that won't go to New York, that will go to the states he likes. That is complicity with an authoritarian leader who is trashing our Constitution. It's time for Democrats to have a backbone. It's time for us to fight. It's time for us to draw lines. And when it comes to the safety of my state being denied these grants, that's why I'm standing here. Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right.
It's really impressive, especially when he says complicity. Really pronounces all of that. Can we just break some of this down for you so I can show you what nonsense this is and how to, again, let me remind you, this is a bill to fund police department. His claim is that it's only going to go to red states, which, you know, basically he's saying that his fellow Democrats who are from blue states are morons. They're idiots. You're stupid. Okay, fine. Great premise. And he may be right, by the way. I'm not going to say he's wrong. There's some pretty stupid Democrats in the Senate. But let's break down some of the arguments he's making. Yeah, and by the way, I hate to argue with him because I want more of this. I want Cory Booker all day long. He is the poster child for the Democrats. They should change the logo. No, get rid of the jackass and instead use this jackass. It really, that tells you exactly who the party is right now. All right. So let's get your wild-eyed and bald head going here, Cory Booker.
What I am tired of is when the President of the United States of America violates the Constitution, trashes our norms and traditions. And what does the Democratic Party do?
Like, can I just, first of all, violates the Constitution? How? I'm pretty sure I would have heard about that. Did we miss another violation of the Constitution here? No. And by the way, this is a man who stood silent while Joe Biden was completely incapacitated, violating the Constitution, while nobody utilized the 25th Amendment when he was incapacitated, which is also subject to questioning whether that's in line with the Constitution, because the 25th Amendment is there for a reason, and if you ignore it and you don't use it, maybe you're in violation. And thirdly, he used an auto pen to pardon hundreds of people preemptively, by the way. And Cory Booker said nothing about that. Nothing about that. Joe Biden stood by and bragged about the fact that he was funding a program that the Supreme Court said violated the Constitution. And Cory Booker celebrated it. But now Cory Booker is really concerned about a president violating the Constitution. And I'm still unclear exactly how Donald Trump has violated the Constitution. But that's okay. The other part is actually my favorite part. He's violating the norms.
States of America violates the Constitution, trashes our norms and traditions.
Trashes our norms and there's one thing, Americans, oftentimes it's said, Americans are divided. Americans are divided. They are. But on a lot of things, Americans are uniquely unified right now. That's why we keep talking about all these 80-20 issues that Trump seems to seize upon, and Democrats decide that they want to, stand in the way of. All these things are actually quite popular. But setting aside policy right now, if you ask both Republicans who support Donald Trump and Democrats who oppose Donald Trump, the majority of both of those groups agree that they want change in this country, that business as usual, the way we've been going for the last 50 years, what some people will refer to as the uniparty, that the establishment in Washington, D.C., regardless of who's sitting in the White House, always ends up winning, and you end up on the short end of the stick, that the system is set up to empower the people who are already rich and powerful and leave you in the dust. That both political parties are frustrated with that and fed up with that. Now, we may not agree on what change we want to embrace, but one thing is for sure, we're done with the norms and business as usual. Both Republicans and Democrats, we got to upend this. We want change. And Cory Booker is screaming on the floor of the Senate because he's angry that Donald Trump is upsetting the norms in Washington, D.C. I mean, I know that people are saying, oh, well, I'm glad he's out there. I'm glad he's fighting. But when you actually look at what he's fighting for, it's actually contrary to even the people in his own party who want a fighter, but they don't want a fighter to restore the norms. You know what I'm saying? All right. And the traditions.
And what does the Democratic Party do? Comply? Allow him? Beg for scraps? No, I demand justice.
I demand justice. Oh, this is gorgeous. Look at his face.
I will fight for Jersey every day, every night. This is a call, folks. The Democratic Party needs a wake-up call. I see law firms bending a knee to this president. I see businesses taking late-night talk show hosts off the air because they dare to insult a president.
So he's fighting for Stephen Colbert. I'm drawing a line in the sand. They got to get Colbert back on the air. What a joke this guy is. But the best part about all this, the very best part about it, is his own colleagues, the people who have to work with him every day, the people who show up and actually have to pretend like they like him and respect him. They'd had enough. Amy Klobuchar, Minnesota, she's probably running for president. Amy Klobuchar decided to call him out on this behavior.
I completely agree with Senator Booker about what this administration is doing. But you can't just pick out a few bills that came out of a committee and say, I'm going to stop those, and then allow for other bills that fund other parts of your budget in your state.
I was just called out by name, and I want to respond. I don't need somebody implying in any way that this is not vital to me and my state, that we have resources for our police officers. But what I am tired of is when the President of the United States of America violates the Constitution, trashes our norms and traditions. And what does the Democratic Party do? Comply? Allow him? Beg for scraps? No, I demand justice. It's time for Democrats to have a backbone. It's time for us to fight. It's time for us to draw lines. And when it comes to the safety of my state being denied these grants, that's why I'm standing here.
So just understand that what really triggered the rage, what really brought him to the floor, what really pushed him over the edge, where he started to scream and the walls are reverberating. You could hear the echo in the chamber because there's 3 people in there, which is also great. I love the performative nature of this. And he's acting like he's talking to a full room, like he's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and you can zoom out and you can see the other 99 senators there in rapt attention fixed. No, it's empty. That's why it sounds so echoey, by the way. But what pushed him over the edge, where he finally had to get there, that's it, I'm going to speak my mind. I've been holding it in, but I'm going to finally, was his own party member, his own colleague, his own Democrat Senator, Amy Klobuchar. I think this is a preview of a debate for the Iowa primary in 2028. I think they're both going to be running, both Klobuchar and Cory Booker. And it's just delightful. And understand something. If you are a supporter of President Trump, if you're a Republican, and you sometimes don't like his behavior, and you sometimes don't like his tweets, and you wish that he'd this, or you wish that that, just understand something. And I get it. I do. But just understand something. Trump's behavior and the way Trump goes about doing what he does, the net result is these guys acting like this. I mean, you may not like it, and you may say, listen, I like his policies, and I'm glad that we're doing this, but I just wish he would tone it down a bit. I hear that a lot, right? But I get that. But know that Trump not toning it down brings us this gold. It brings us Cory Booker acting like this. By the way, this wasn't even the cringiest thing that Cory Booker did in the last 7 days. He shared this video on his social media. It's a video of farm workers in America. And, well, just watch the video first. It shows all of these, I'm guessing, illegal immigrants, because that's why he posted it. So I'm assuming they're illegal. We'll just let it play on a loop here. Cory posted this video, and then he said, if I may, this is his the text that he accompanied the video with. The hands that feed us. We see you, and we will fight to protect you. The hands that feed us. It's just so moving and so touching. That's Cory Booker. And he is your Democratic Party. And we can't get enough. Thank you, Cory. Thank you. The hands that feed us. We had some big economic news this morning as the final reports for the second quarter's gross domestic product were released. And, well, it's funny. You'll get the news delivered to you in two very different ways depending on what network you're watching. But know this. It's very good news. Things are going very well. And once again, the experts were wrong. But first, let's share the news here. And the way it was delivered, on the top of the screen, you'll see Fox Business Channel. Is this our buddy Maze that put this together? Yeah, it is. Maze is so good. Subscribe to him on X. He does great videos. On the top, it's the way Fox Business delivered the news. And then on the bottom is the way CNN delivered the news. Understand, it's the exact same news. It's the exact same numbers. It's the exact same data. But believe it or not, on those two networks, they had very different reactions.
GDP, this is the first read of the second quarter, coming in at 3%. That is better than expected.
We have an economy growing at, what do you say, 3%? We have inflation at 2%. That's the best of both worlds.
Yes, it did rebound to an annualized rate of 3% during the second quarter. Even though headline GDP rebound, this economy has actually started to lose some momentum.
Wait a second. So we just went from a negative 1% in the first quarter as a reaction still from the Biden economic policies to a 3%. That's like a 4.5% increase in just 3 months. And CNN's analysis is
GDP, this is the first read.
Has some problems. Okay. Listen, I'm not going to tell you what to think. You know what the economic world is looking like in your life and with your job and with your business. And I guess you can take your worldview and you can apply it to this new data, and you can decide for yourself whether the economy is on the rebound and getting stronger and bigger or not. Just like Fox Business will tell you one thing and CNN will tell you the other. But I'll say this, today's economic news, it resulted in a temper tantrum from Senator Schumer. Chuck Schumer went nuts on the Senate floor because of this economic data. That tells me that it is good news for Trump. It is good news for America, because if the economy is doing well, that makes Democrats angry. Bear that in mind here. They're not rooting for success right now. All right, so let's set CNN and Fox aside for a minute. Let's check out how the business channel CNBC is looking at it. First, as usual, the experts were wrong. On the left is your headline from July 8th, CNBC. Expect a slowdown in GDP growth, so 3 rate cuts likely, says Citi's Rob Rowe. Here's this morning's headline on CNBC. U.S. economy grew at a 3% rate in Q2, better than expected pace, even as Trump's tariffs hit. I love the even as Trump's tariffs hit. Why didn't the headline writer write just as or because Trump tariffs hit? Or, it's like, the tariffs have hit, but the GDP still went up. Maybe the GDP went up because we started growing our economy more here domestically instead of relying on foreign countries for our gross product. So that's CNBC once again. And I love the better than expected. Maybe you should get better people to make the expectations. Do you ever stop and think, does anyone at CNBC ever say, hey guys, could we get a different team in here that isn't always wrong? And they're always wrong in the same direction. Then on video at CNBC, Rick Santelli, a little bit more enthusiastic about the numbers we're looking at right now.
Up 3%, better than expected. That would be the highest level since the third quarter of 24, when it was up 3.1%. On the consumption side, up 1.4, very close to estimates. Up 1.4 would be the best since the last quarter of 24. Up 3%.
Now, that's very good. And by the way, he was comparing it to the third and fourth quarter of 24, which had a couple of different factors. First of all, as you know, the Democrats who were in charge decided in the Senate and in the White House and Biden, they decided to make changes and implement policies specifically to goose up the economy right before the election that were contrary to what he had done for the first 3 years. They do that all the time, number one. And number two, the hope of Trump's win in November actually already had an early effect on the economy. But more importantly, let's compare how Rick Santelli of CNBC just announced the GDP numbers in the second quarter of 2025 to an exact same comparable announcement to the Biden era. Now, it would be easy and frankly unfair for me to say, let's look at the second quarter of 2021, because that was the first year of Biden's presidency. So that is a direct apples to apples comparison, right? But that wouldn't be fair, because we were still in the midst of the lockdown. We were still dealing with COVID-19. People were still out of work. So we're gonna extend Joe Biden some grace here. We are instead going to compare to Rick Santelli's announcement on the same network. We're going to do it for 2022. So this is 3 years ago today. This is the second quarter of Joe Biden's second year in office. So we're out of the pandemic. And by the way, Joe Biden has already passed his American Recovery Act or whatever it was called. So he's already been able to put in place his policies and his legislation, his signature piece of legislation, to be able to revitalize the economy coming out of the pandemic. So, Mr. Santelli, how's the GDP under Joe Biden?
GDP, first look, first quarter, is a nasty minus 1.4. Minus 1.4. We haven't had a minus sign since that nasty second quarter, COVID-related in 2020.
Nasty. And what was the growth of the GDP? We didn't have growth. It was negative growth. I love the term negative growth, by the way. Kevin Hassett, he is the chief economic advisor to President Trump. He met the media today after this announcement. Here's his assessment.
Yeah, it's really one of the best GDP announcements or releases that you could imagine, because there's blockbuster growth way above expectation. And there's also a real almost collapse in inflation. It went down by about 1.5% all the way down to 2.1%, which is the Fed's target. And so to have high growth with low inflation and also high income growth, personal income growth was 3%. That's just like about a sweet spot for a GDP release. And I will add that all of this happened while 127 billion in tariffs was raised, which is clearly not harming the American consumer. And we've been downsizing government in order to be more fiscally responsible. 70,000 federal jobs have been reduced, and 5%. There was a 5% reduction in federal government spending while all this was going on.
Yeah, I hope you took all that in, because oftentimes you'll hear economists say that the way to grow the economy is to increase government spending, so they can sort of, Democrats always take that approach. You know, we got to fix this economy, and that's why we need to go into debt by spending more of your money that we don't actually have. So we're really borrowing money from the future, and that's going to create a larger economy. But what that does is increase inflation, because it's fake, it's not real. And it's also created by and funded by the government. So ultimately it grows the government, which ends up in the long run harming all of us because of the debt we're incurring. Instead, we reduce the size of government. We reduce the payroll of the government. We streamlined much of what the government was doing. This was all from the private sector. You know, oftentimes you would see jobs numbers under Joe Biden, and they looked really kind of good. Oh gosh, added 250,000 jobs this quarter. Or this month. That's huge. But then when you look at it, like 50,000 of the jobs came from the private sector, and the rest all came from government. You know, it's easy to grow jobs numbers when it's the government that's doing all of the hiring. So it really is incredibly strong, considering the fact that inflation was only 2%. But that's a guy who works for the president. See, he's paid to try to spin this and make it look as rosy as possible. What about this guy, the chief political opponent of President Trump in Washington, D.C.? He's the minority leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, a Democrat. You see, he's rooting for the economy to tank. See, if things are bad for us economically, that's good news for Chuck Schumer. So what was his mood like when these numbers were released?
And while the Trump administration will try to wave rosy headlines about the Q2 number, today's GDP number is in fact a mirage, because some ominous numbers lurk under the hood. Business investment plunged in the second quarter by 3.1%. The fact that business investment plunged so starkly is very troubling. It shows that already businesses are worried about growing their operations, worried about hiring more workers, worried about trading with their international partners, and worried in general about the future. And this number is another data point in a larger pattern. Donald Trump's tariffs are weighing down the U.S. economy, spiking costs for small businesses and families alike. And if Donald Trump keeps up the chaos, the dangers for the economy will continue to get worse.
Is he done? Is it done? I'm so sorry. I apologize. Chuck Schumer just has that effect on me. He's quite an orator, isn't he? What a delivery. Makes you miss Cory Booker. There you go. It's all a mirage, guys. The tariffs are weighing down the economy. So what you're telling me is, if it weren't for the tariffs, we would have had, what, 5% GDP? 6% GDP? That's all he's got. The tariffs are weighing down the economy. We had 3% GDP with the tariffs, and we raised $100 billion in the federal treasury because of the tariffs. Also, those tariffs led to a monumental trade agreement with the European Union where we pretty much got everything we wanted, but the tariffs are weighing down our economy. Because why shouldn't you trust a guy who has actually never had a private sector job in his life? He has never hired anybody for a private sector job. He has never had to make a private sector payroll. In fact, I think every paycheck Chuck Schumer has made since he was in his early 20s has been a government paycheck of one kind or another. So, of course, he's an expert on the economy. But the fact that Chuck Schumer addressed these numbers like he was a mortician tells you that this is actually very good news. Meanwhile, Amy Klobuchar, part of leadership for the Democrats, and like I said, is running for president. She's decided that she's going to tell you a fairy tale to tell you how bad the economy is. Just understand something. The numbers are not working for them. The data is not working for them. Whether it's the GDP, whether it's inflation, whether it's the jobs numbers, none of the actual raw data works. How about the stock market? Nope, they can't point at that either. So what have they got? Well, they've got fiction. And here's Amy Klobuchar with some really creative writing.
I was up in Grand Marais, Minnesota, and saw someone walk out of a grocery store, just happened to be walking in, saw her look at her receipt. She was looking down and she's just, no. I was up.
Who believes that? Who believes Amy Klobuchar actually went to a grocery store? Who believes that somebody was walking out looking at their receipt saying, no. By the way, she could have been looking at her receipt, shaking her head, saying, no, I forgot the hamburger. Oh, damn it. I always forget to pick up hamburger. How do you know she wasn't looking at her receipt saying, no, why did the Democrats make our sales tax so high in this state? Oh, no, why did Tim Walz raise our sales tax? No, why are Tim Walz's policies making things expensive in Minnesota? I'm actually from Michigan. It's even worse there. No. How do we know this wasn't a Texan who was visiting friends in Minnesota and was looking at the receipt saying, no, why are things so expensive in this Democrat-run state? Now, again, I'm giving you various interpretations of what the fictional no, looking at your receipt may have meant. But I maintain that this right here never happened.
I was up in Grand Marais, Minnesota, and saw someone walk out of a grocery store, just happened to be walking in, saw her look at her receipt. She was looking down and she's just, no.
By the way, real fast, and I won't ask you again, but put it in our live chat or put it in the comments section. But who goes to a grocery store where they hand out receipts or the little machine spits out receipts that would be held like this? Right? Aren't receipts like this? Like they're about this wide and they're usually long. So you'd be holding it, like that. Or you'd be holding it with one hand looking at it. But she specifically is holding this. Is she looking at it horizontally? She's looking at the receipt like it's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. What grocery store is this exactly? It doesn't exist. Look at the receipt. Look at how she's holding the receipt. No grocery store gives a receipt this wide. It never happened. All right. So now what are Democrats going to do? So the data doesn't work for them, right? GDP data doesn't work for them. The unemployment numbers don't work for them. The inflation numbers aren't working for them. The tariff numbers aren't working for them. The actual net results of the tariffs, which gives us trade deals, aren't working for them. The Wall Street, the numbers on Wall Street and the stock market ain't working for them. The actual reduction of our debt. Did you know that in June, the federal government showed a surplus for the first time in a decade? So that ain't working for them. Amy Klobuchar coming up with a short story that she wrote herself before heading out to that press conference. That ain't working for them. So what else have they got? Well, we'll swing over to CNN with Wolf Blitzer. He's got the governor of Colorado on, Jared Polis. Now, Jared Polis, I think, is going to run for president because, look at him. That's a stunning figure. Who doesn't want to be led by that guy? So what has he got?
Of all these tariffs. Well, first of all, it's ridiculous. I mean, Europe, our closest ally, the tariff has historically been between 1% and 3%. Trump has hiked it to 15%. I mean, that's a net 12, 13% price increase for American consumers on everything that comes from Europe. India potentially could be even worse for America if it stays anywhere near that 25%, because this is really important for Americans buying products. It also discourages investment in the United States, because when you're making things here for export, there's always a reciprocal tariff. The other country puts one on us. And so a lot of manufacturing is going to move overseas. I've already heard from companies here saying, we're not going to build a factory in Colorado. We're going to build it overseas because we can't pay the tariffs on all the parts and materials that we need to make our product.
I know, Governor, you issued an executive order earlier this month to try to mitigate the effects of these tariffs, but President Trump has been able to strike trade agreements with some U.S. allies, including a framework with the European Union just the other day. Are you willing to give Trump credit for that?
Well, no, because it went from 2% to 15%. If he gets it down to zero, I would be happy to give him credit, Wolf. I mean, that's the goal of trade negotiations. And if this is some sort of bluff with India, he wants them to stop selling to Russia, bring down their barriers, and he goes to zero, I'll say he was a great negotiator and got a good deal. Right now, 25%, 15%, ripping off the American people, bad deals, hurts the economy.
You know, I just want to jump in here real fast because we're talking about the economy and they're throwing a lot of things. And a lot of people believe that, by the way, that employing a 50% tariff on the European Union is ripping off the American people. Now, let me be clear here real quickly. Okay. If BMW or Mercedes, what do you buy from Europe right now? Dude, seriously, if you look at the actual numbers about the big ticket stuff, like the biggest ticket stuff coming out of Europe that Americans are buying. We're talking about BMWs, Mercedes, Volkswagens, and you're talking some pharmaceuticals too, which thanks to this guy, we're all paying for through our taxes and the federal government in many respects. Okay, but sets pharmaceuticals aside for a second, which, by the way, I think pharmaceuticals were clear of any tariffs in the EU deal, so it doesn't even apply to pharmaceuticals. So let's just say that a BMW or a Mercedes or champagne and fancy cheese or what have you is going to be more expensive. It could be the truth, right? So if you're buying a Mercedes or a BMW, maybe you factor that in. You know, the dealer here is going to have a choice. They either eat the tariffs and cut into their profit margin, or they pass the tariffs on to the consumer. And the consumer who is already prepared to buy a BMW or a Mercedes, it's going to be a little bit more expensive for them to pay the tariff. And you're right. That's the government imposing a cost to the consumer that is only there because the government has imposed it. I get it. And you've got a Democrat making the case that the American people are getting screwed because the government is adding a cost to a product that they want to buy. Now, I could use a Democrat talking point and I can say, well, those rich people are buying Beamers and Mercedes, so screw them. Let them pay more for their Porsche. Fine. They're rich already. And honestly, there's some validity to that. But frankly, I'm more fascinated by a Democrat finally deciding that he wants to draw the line on the government imposing an unnecessary cost on a product and passing it on to the American consumer. What about your state sales tax, Governor Polis? What about all the regulations that the state of Colorado puts on every industry that does business in their state? Every time you start up a business in Colorado, every single thing you have to do, whether it's payroll taxes, whether it's HR training, whether it's DEI training, whether it's a business license, if you do anything that impacts the environment, the various studies that you have to pay for, every single regulation and law that Democrats in Colorado, who have been in charge of that state for a couple decades now, that this governor signs into law, every single thing that they make you jump through, every hoop they make you jump through, you know, the posters you have to put up in your break room for your employees that remind them what the minimum wage is and what their rights as an employee is, all that stuff. You got to buy all that stuff. That all comes out of your bottom line. And what do you do with it? You pass it on to your customers, don't you? That's all okay. Oh, in fact, that's all noble. That's virtuous. That's good government protecting the people. What about corporate taxes? Governor Polis, do corporate taxes now. You don't like tariffs? Do corporate taxes, because they love raising taxes on corporations, don't they? Oh, the problem is the corporations are getting away with murder. We need to raise taxes on corporations. Excuse me. When a corporation has to pay higher taxes, how do they get that money? Where do they get the money from that? You think they're just cutting into their profits and paying their taxes? No. They pass it on to you. When corporations have to pay higher taxes, they get the money to pay those taxes by charging more for their product or for their service. Just like what the tariffs do to the Mercedes or the Beamer. But it is remarkable now to see a Democrat decide that this is outrageous. The American people are going to have to pay those tariffs. Literally every single tax and regulation these Democrats love and scream bloody murder when Republicans reduce them, every single one of them increases costs for you. And they will never, ever, ever acknowledge that. But suddenly, because Trump has decided to use tariffs as a tool with our international trade partners who have been getting away with murder for decades, suddenly now they've found religion. So they've got nothing. I mean, honestly, I've been looking for a legitimate, fair, and logic, fact-based argument from the Democrats today to make the case for Trump's economic policies being harmful and a disaster. And I've shown you everything that I've got. And I don't know where else to go from there other than a couple of days ago, Jim Cramer on CNBC dropping an F-bomb. I've got that.
Our biggest problem is we have so much growth that the Fed won't cut. What the fuck? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, my
God. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I take it right back.
Everybody,
I take it right back.
That was bad.
It's
okay. We're in the moment.
I take it right back.
It's just the way
I take it right back. That was bad.
It's cable with a ticker, as Joe Kernan would say.
I take that back.
That's right.
Real people doing live TV.
No.
Jim, though, to your point, Goldman today, the most notable change.
I think I'm out of here.
You're fine. You're absolutely
Goldman
fine.
today, the most
You
notable
want me to say one?
No, I just feel like enough with the rate cut and the economy's booming.
Let Carl talk now.
Goldman today, most notable change since the June.
By the way, I mean, it is funny to see. He's such a buffoon. And to see him drop an F-bomb like that is funny in and of itself. But then the reaction. You know, I work in radio every day. We're controlled by the FCC, or not controlled, but we have certain standards that we have to meet. And saying the F word, look up the George Carlin thing about the 7 dirty words. Trust me, it's one of the words. And many derivatives of the F word you're not allowed to say. And the FCC will come down on you and you could get fined. And it's very bad for your employer. So I have to work within the confines of the FCC. That's why here when we're streaming, I'm not controlled by that. Sometimes, you know, that word can get through. I tend to not say it. That's why I have that at my disposal. CNBC is not regulated by the FCC. I mean, they shouldn't say it. They maybe have standards that they don't want a middle of the day show to have a bunch of F words and profanity, but that's their own decision. They're not, you know, but either way, it's like I've been told we have a thing in radio called a delay, which means if somebody slips, if you've got a guest that says it or a caller, if they say something that is objectionable and outside the confines of the FCC, we have what's called a dump button. You hit a button and the delay will sort of jump forward so that what was just said on the air will not make it out through the broadcast. It's called a dump button, which is used sometimes. Sometimes you have to employ it. But the one thing that you learn as a professional, you know, like these guys who have been in the business for a long time, is if something slips, if something happens, the last thing you want to do is make a big deal out of it. The last thing you want to do is draw attention to it. If you have to use the delay, or if, God forbid, something slips through, just act like nothing happened and be a professional and move on. They just spent a minute in hysterics over what Jim Cramer said. And he didn't even say it all the way. But these are the most trusted professionals that we're all supposed to be listening to when it comes to our economic news. And that's why over at CNBC, boy, they sure were right predicting the GDP numbers today. Expect a slowdown in growth. Nope, it was 3%. They're just bad at what they do. but they keep getting rewarded. Look at Jim Cramer, for God's sake. Has he gotten anything right? Has he gotten anything fucking right? No. Except for that moment. That was the realest moment I've ever seen on CNBC of late. And it was glorious. We're on the golden age right now, everybody, and I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. All right, guys, that's it for the show. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry we didn't get to your super chats yesterday. We had a taped interview, as you saw, and we had to get all that taken care of. So we want to get to your super chats today. And don't forget to like and subscribe our video, please. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, but let's do those super chats, shall we? God's best friend with another £2 gift. Thank you for that, sir. Swalwell, I thought commie comedian were fired. I thought commie comedian were fired. I'm not deciphering that. Kevin, help me.
I think the point being made here is that they're accusing Trump of getting rid of people like Colbert. And how Eric Swalwell is also acting like a clown, yet he still has a job.
Gotcha. Good point. That's true. God's best friend, £2. I feel like biting a hand or two.
That's definitely about the hands that feed us.
That's the hands that feed us. The hands that feed. You love that video, the hands that feed us, don't you? The virtue signaling of that. I'm sorry we couldn't play the music on it, but there's a royalty issue on that, and we didn't want to get dinged for it. But it's just so sanctimonious and stupid. The economy is in a state of erection. Hold on now. What's that all about? It does feel engorged right now. It feels like it's about to break loose, actually, even more so. But we'll see what happens. Bruce Rice, Save America, there with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Bruce. No comment, just throwing a little something in the jar. Appreciate it, Bruce. Thank you so much. And I like Bruce Rice. I generally like Jasmine or I was making a rice joke and I'm lost. I'm sorry. My brain is fried, and I still have a full day ahead of me. I got an event to go to. I'm doing a podcast. I'm a guest on a podcast. Our buddy Bradley Devlin's podcast at Daily Signal, and I got one other thing that I'm doing today. So I don't know. I feel scatterbrained, Kevin.
I'm sorry.
I need like ginkgo biloba or something. Or do you know what I've been taking? I've been taking that blue, that methylene blue. Have you seen that RFK Jr. puts that blue stuff in his water? Have you seen that? I'm taking that now. Did I tell you this? Have I told you this? I've been taking it for like 10 days, and I do, well, especially in the mornings, I feel a lot sharper and such.
Well, that's good. It's not like you wake up early or anything.
I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, but that's all right. Ambien. No, I don't take Ambien, Lawrence Leggett. That's not what I'm talking about. Hump Day Larry goes slow. Thank you, Melanie. I'm just going to read the chat now. I don't get to read the chat enough. You need some Kevin splaining. Thank you, Cuffy. It's true. Kevin, I've been reading the comments a lot lately, and you are an unsung hero on this program.
I am beloved.
Are you going to show yourself when we hit 600,000 subscribers?
I would be more than happy to do that.
We're on path, buddy. We are only 24,000 subscribers away now. And we gained about 21,000 subscribers in the month of July. So this could happen in August if we keep up our pace and everybody starts liking and recommending us for a subscription. So what do we want to do? What do we want to do to celebrate 600,000?
Well, at 500,000, we did a special evening late night party live stream. So we could do something like that again.
We did. We could have some special guests, though, too. And we could drink on the air. We could do that.
I am down.
All right. Well, we'll take your suggestions too. What do you want us to do for our 600,000th subscriber? Let us know in the chat and in the comments. In the meantime, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for watching. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.